guys hear me? Oh my God, I do have to apologize for my voice. But actually, I'm really happy that I can speak because for the last 2 days, I had no voice whatsoever. So that's like the worst thing that can happen. Thank you. Oh
the
my
big
God.
green button.
The big, oh, so that's the worst that can happen to a person coming to give a talk, as you can imagine. So I was really, really afraid that I will not be able to speak today. So yeah, the voice is as it is. I'm really excited to be here. The first time the organizers invited me to come to Jaipur, to this conference, and meet you all and discuss a bit about creativity, the first thing I asked was, who's going to be in the room? Who's going to be in the audience? And I've been told that most of you guys here are actually middle to top management. So people who are actually leading this industry, the PR industry in India. And therefore, I thought, why don't we use maybe this opportunity? Could I go down the stage? No? Okay, yeah, no. So I wanted to have a more of a chat with you, but apparently not. I need to be here. Creative people are not very good with rules. So, hey. So I wanted to use this opportunity to talk about something a bit different. So still about creativity. I'm not going to talk about work today. I'm not going to show you my favorite creative campaigns of the year. I'm on my own work, though I love to share my work with people. I actually want to talk to you about how to lead for creativity, how to manage for creativity. I find that in public relations, the discussion around creativity has become so big lately. So everybody is discussing a lot more about creativity. The speaker who was in front of me on this stage talked about skills that are going to be commoditized. Well, creativity is never going to be commoditized. At the top of the skills will never be replaced by robots. Creativity, it's creativity. So I want to talk to you today about, how to manage creativity, how to lead your units, your teams, your agencies, so that you can bring out the full potential of your people. And I call the presentation "Creating a Culture of Creative Excellence." You can see there my Twitter handle and the Twitter handle of my firm. So I would love to use this just as a start of a conversation. So whatever questions you guys may have after this conference, in the following weeks or months or whatever, just drop me a tweet and I'll make sure I answer. So there is a lot of discussion about creativity in public reason. And it's for a good reason. Of course, there are a lot of blurred lines between public relation and other disciplines. And of course, there is a big need for creativity in our industry. Clients are asking for it more and more. We want to do more innovative campaigns. We know that, when we have a creative idea, actually, it saves a bit of a budget because a creative campaign will make that brand be easier noticeable as opposed to, not a creative campaign. So there's a big increase in creativity. At the same time, what I noticed, particularly working in public relations or with public relations companies, I noticed that in PR agencies particularly, there is not a structured approach of creativity. Creativity is not led with a method. Creativity is left to chance. Because it's creativity, no? So because it's creativity, it's like a gift from God. So there's no way we can impact with that. Well, I don't believe in that. I don't believe creativity is about the muses. I don't believe creativity is just about inspiration. I don't believe creativity is just about talent. I believe there is a way of, inspiring creativity, foster creativity, and bring out the creative potential out of people. So in the words of someone a lot, clever than I am, I brought you a quote here. So I'm starting with a quote, ending with a quote. So the first quote is this, starting with, is this: excellence is never an accident. It is the result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. It's choice, not chance. So practically, what I came here to you today is to have like a little training, all of us, or a little workshop if you want. So I'm going to take you through some of the things that I found by working with some of the best PR agencies in the world. So I worked with Weber Shandwick, with Ogle VPR. Both of them this year are #1 and #2 in the Creative Index by Holmes Report. I worked for both companies, led both units of both companies. And then I worked for TBWA London, which is one of the best creative agencies in the world, doing some absolutely amazing work. And I also, because I don't want to come to you here only with this huge experience coming from big networks, I also want to share with you the experience that I got by leading my own firm. So a few years ago, in 2006, I launched a company, and it's a funny story, because my company used to be called, it's still called, but it's not mine anymore. It's called The Practice. And as you may know, there's an Indian company, PR company called The Practice. So I remember meeting Nandita, who is the leader of The Practice, India, The Practice, and I introduced myself, and I said, I'm Gabriela, I'm from The Practice. And she was like, I'm Nandita, I'm from The Practice. Anyway, problem solved. We didn't create a huge The Practice network. But hey, this company was not, so for Weber Shandwick, for TPWA, I worked in London. These are big networks with a lot of resources, lots of people, lots of offices, lots of money. But my company was a company based in Bucharest, Romania. That's a quite, it's not a very small country in Europe, but it's definitely not one of the biggest countries in Europe. When my company was listed in the creative index that Holmes Report is doing as one of the most creative companies in the world, we were 13 in the office. 1, 3. That was it. Imagine how much good work we had to create with 13 people in order to be even listed there. All the other companies listed in the creative index were huge networks with, hundreds of people and dozens of offices. So that's what I came here today to share you things that I discovered all the most creative in communication in the world share in common. So it doesn't really matter if you are from a big, big company or if you have your own little PR boutique. It doesn't really matter. These principles apply to all of you. And I really hope you will either take photos of the screen or write things down, and then on Monday, you're gonna go and do it, because you can do it. Yes? So I'll tell you basically how to lead your unit in a more creative way. There are 5 key elements. Simple. Just 5. First one is to make creativity a business priority. The second one is to make creativity personal for each individual in your team. The third one is to focus on the creative process. The fourth one is to take clients along on the creative journey. And the last one, but definitely not the least important, and celebrate creative excellence. And I'm going to take them, one by one, so I can discuss with you a bit what's with these elements. I find that if I stay here, I can hear myself better. I don't know. Do you hear me? Good. So the first thing first, to make creativity a business priority. I want to have I want to ask you to raise your hand, but please be really honest. If creativity is listed among your company values. Absolutely okay. So that's exactly what happens everywhere. Absolutely. Oh my God. There's no way. For me, creativity, we are in business. Creativity, the motto, so the lady here, she said creativity with relevance. Obviously, it's not creativity. We are not artists here. People, we are in business. Of course, the mantra of my previous company, of the practice, was results through creativity. Of course, it's all about results. But how we achieve it, it matters. Because, you know, if we achieve it through creativity, we will have more fun. At least we will have more fun. Because who doesn't want to do awesome creative work? So, as I expected, very few of you raised your hands about making creativity, about creativity being a shared company value. Well, let me tell you, if you aim to do good creative work, you need to start by at least having the ambition. If creativity is not among the company's most important values, it will never happen. It will happen by accident, which is something you don't want to do. Creative excellence means creativity all the time. Not once in a blue moon, not once when somebody has the inspiration. Creative excellence means all the time creating great creative idea. So please, all the companies who are really serious about creativity, they make creativity, they list creativity as a company shared value. With variations, obviously. You can call it innovation, you can call it anything you want. But put creativity out there so that you and your people can, have it as an objective. Then the second thing, very, very important, is to set clear and specific creative objectives, equally important as the financial ones or any other business goals. In my experience as a manager, as a leader, what doesn't get measured doesn't happen. So if there is no creative objective in the company business plan, creativity will not happen because it's just not a priority for people. Examples of creative objectives, because many times people are asking me, okay, that's good with creative objectives, but give us an example. Of course, so when I was leading my own firm, the objective was, for example, number of awards we won. So if this year we would win 5 awards, next year we will want to win 8, and so and so. But also, and this is something that everybody here can do, irrespective of your decision of entering or not entering awards, it's client rating. Do a research with your own clients every year and ask your clients to, assess how creative or not creative you are. And if you get a 7 out of 10 this year, make it an objective to do it 8 next year, and then 9, and then 10, and whatever. So put an objective in the business plan. This is something so important I can't even tell you. And the third thing to make creativity a business priority is to support creativity financially and to invest in creativity. It doesn't need to be a big budget, but if there is no budget, then again, it will not happen. Creative investment has many forms. So one form is, for example, recruitment. Yeah, if you allocate a bit of money so you can afford, so you can, put money into recruiting some more creative people. Another thing is training. A bit of training, some workshops, sending people to conferences like this one, other conferences that are specifically focused on creativity. There are so many around the world. Ask someone who's a creative, trainer to come and have a talk. Or if you have absolutely no money, as I was in this situation when I was leading my firm in Romania, sometimes I didn't have any money, then I was using my connections. Every time I would meet a movie director, for example, from our own country, I would ask him, would you come and speak to my team about your creative process? People usually like that. So, they would come, have a half an hour a session with my team talking about creativity. These are things that absolutely everybody can do, but please do them. If you don't do them, then creative excellence will. Very important for creative leadership and to create a creative culture is to have you, the leaders of the industry, as ambassadors for creativity. If you don't mention creativity in your speech to your people, in the presentations you give to maybe you are doing presentations in front of your staff every month or every once in a while. If you don't talk about creativity and if you don't mention it as something important, again, creativity will not happen. It comes from the top. A lot of times it comes from the top, and you need to, discuss about this. I also believe a lot in having someone who's driving creativity, a proper creative leader. So in every company, in my point of view, and I've seen again this in absolutely the best creative companies in the world, creativity is always led by a creative leader. And I know in public relations, many times people are saying, we don't want a creative director because creativity is everybody's job. And I hear a lot this, creativity being everybody's job. I think profitability is everybody's job as well. Do we have a financial director? Is someone really, really taking care that you are making the money and that you are really staying focused? Sorry? Oh, absolutely, not too creative with the numbers though. But the same way we have, leaders for other pieces of business, we need someone whose entire energy and drive and focus and passion should be about creativity. It's not a creative director. So I specifically didn't use the word creative director here. I used the word creative leader. Because I personally believe, and working in both public relations and advertising, I've noticed, some differences. And I don't believe the model of the traditional creative director, as in advertising, applies to public relations. I feel that in public relations, the role of the creative leader is more of a facilitator. So it's someone who's not coming up with all the ideas, who's actually making sure that the entire company contributes, who's making sure that the entire company is up to date with the latest things in creativity, with the latest trends, with the latest techniques. So that's what a creative leader must do first and foremost. And if you are to be serious about creativity, that takes a lot of time. So it's simply, if not for another reason, you can't have the creative leader doing something else. So that's why please appoint a creative leader or recruit one. Or again, if you can't afford to hire a creative leader, see who's the most productive in creativity from your team. And just make some space, some time for that person to be able to focus more on creativity. That's very important. Of course, one very important thing to make creativity a business priority is to promote creativity across the company and to explain how every unit can contribute. What I find in public relations quite interesting is how people believe that, for example, the consumer marketing guys are the creative ones, or the digital guys are always the more creative ones. And humbly, somehow, people working for corporate communications or healthcare, they think, oh my God, no, creativity doesn't really apply to us. That's not true. Some of the most awarded campaigns I've done was for employee engagement, crisis communication, corporate communication, healthcare. There is creativity in absolutely every single unit. And although not everybody is a creative professional, we should all strive to bring creativity into our profession. And it's very important. Of course, there are different challenges. So if you are working, for example, for the healthcare sector, I heard a debate earlier related to healthcare, which was really interesting. So if you are a healthcare professional, of course, there's a quite different tone of voice for creativity. You can't, like you are talking about human life, you need to be quite sensitive. So there are, of course, lots of challenges, but that should not stop you from trying to come up with creative solutions. And of course, very important again for me is this point. It's important to promote creativity across the company, but these days, the most creative companies must have a specialized strategy. They must have this. Again, if not for any other reason, then at least for the reason of time. If the same person is dealing with clients on a regular basis, doing budgets, calling media, and so on, there's little time for creative ideas. So do hire some people, a creative specialized department, a creative specialized unit if you can. And if not, again, I'm going to give you, again, a shortcut. Again, try to see who of your current team, so not hiring anyone else, who from your current team is more productive in coming up with really good ideas. This means that those people are probably more your most creative people, and just free a bit of time. Make them, call less journalists or do less events, do budgets a bit less so they can have a bit more time for ideas. And you will not have a creative specialized unit. You will have more of a creative tribe if you want, but it's still better than not having any sort of creative structure. Many times when people are talking about creative culture, they are actually talking about creating a very creative climate. I specifically added this just as one bullet point in my presentation, because creating a creative culture is not about building a fun room in the company. Many companies are just, creating a little fun room with some games, and they are like, done, checked. I have a creative. It's obviously not about that. Though, it's fun to have a fun room. So please do that if you want. But to create an organizational climate favorable to idea generation, you need to make sure people are free to make jokes, free to play in the company. They have a bit, there's a bit of naughtiness happening. All the companies, all the best creative companies that I know and I've worked with, they had this, sense of play and fun in the company. You would never know what would happen next. Who would do a prank to who? If people don't have that, sense of joke and, be able to think freely, then they will not come up with the best creative idea. Make sure there is that sense of, play and fun. Practice corporate selfishness. So, especially on the agency side, and many of you here are on the agency side, you know how much we all care about our clients. We dedicate, so many hours thinking of how to make the best for our clients. What I would suggest is to practice a bit of corporate selfishness and allocate a bit of time for you as well. For you, for your people. So what I was doing when I was running my company, every Friday, we would take 2 hours. So all our clients the work schedule was not until 6 on Friday, but until 4. And from 4 to 6 on every Friday, we would take, as a company, 2 hours just to focus on us. And of course, the client would benefit. But we were talking in these 2 hours, and imagine, 2 hours every week, that's not too bad. We would discuss about, creative trends. We would discuss about the best work some other companies did. And we were jealous as hell of their work. We would talk about, the latest winners of I don't know which award. We would have one of those people that I told you about, a director, a singer, or anyone who's working in a creative area talking about their creative process. There are a lot of things you can do if you just allocate 2 hours every week. It's not a lot, but it's important. And we are just not, although it sounds, just 2 hours, how many of us, how many of you are really doing this? And the last thing in making creativity a business priority is display risk and give permission to fail. By definition, any creative idea is risky. A creative idea means something that was never done before. Otherwise, it's not, like it's not original, it's not creative. If it was never done before, do we know if it's really gonna work? Not really. We know, based on our experience, that there's a high chance for that idea to work. But there's not really a way of knowing. So when people are risking for the good of the clients, so taking good risks, not bad risks. Bad risk is doing something stupid or something without proper preparation. But good risk, doing a really brave new idea, that's a good risk, and allow people to do it and to fail, because it's going to be an average game. You will not win 100%. So these are the things you can do to make creativity a business priority. Now, another thing the second thing that is very important is to make creativity personal for each individual. The same way I discussed earlier about setting creative objectives for the company. If you don't cascade that until this creativity gets to every single person in the team, it's not enough. So each person needs to be invested in this creativity thing. And you can have KPIs, for example, like how many brave ideas did you come up with? How many brave ideas did you help sell to clients? How many brave ideas did you help produce? So it's not all about coming up with creative idea, but it's also helping those ideas come to life. So it's super important to make people feel that there's a personal investment in creativity. In creating a very creative culture, it is a lot of top management job, but it's also people. So, put your people in charge with different initiatives. Ask them to come up with different initiatives. When I was with Weber Shandwick in London, we opened up a platform and we asked people what type of creative initiative, what type of creative programs would you like to have? And we had so many great ideas from the people. So it wasn't just, my job to come up with stuff and to entertain my people. If they want to be creative, they should help us. So do this, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. And make them in charge of these programs. Of course, to make creativity personal to each individual, you need to recruit. So develop for creativity. So make sure that when you are recruiting creative, people, make sure you ask for creative questions. Like, don't rely on the CV. I'm still so surprised in how many companies people are still hired just based on CV and the discussion. We are in PR. We know how to talk people. We are really good at talking. If we need to see the work. Ask for portfolios. This is the easiest thing you can do to make sure that really the people you are hiring are, really good at creative ideas. Ask for the work. In advertising, there's no way people are hired without a portfolio. Everybody has a portfolio. The first thing a recruiter sees is the work, not the CV. Nobody cares about the CV until they see the work. So that's a very easy thing to do. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So very important in creativity as word is to reward creative and creative behavior. Remember, it's not about the money. It's about, sending people to conferences. Creative people want to have recognition, and they want to improve themselves. In PR, there's something called the Little League syndrome. So we bring people along on the creative process, but in the Little League, they say it's not the outcome that counts. It's the participation. Well, we should avoid that. There are creative champions in any company. And, and everybody should do it, no matter how good or not you are. Should not happen. We need to give people with ideas the recognition they deserve, because it's important for creators to be recognized as, creators. Very important in creativity as well is to focus on the creative process. Put in place a thorough creative process. Make sure you are using lots of techniques. Don't, have an obsession for research, because ideas don't come from nowhere. They come from a lot of data. Make sure you have an obsession for craft and make work beautiful. Another thing that we do a lot in PR is to do all team brainstorms. Do you guys do all team brainstorms? Putting lots of people together? Brain techniques are the worst creative technique. It's not something I'm saying. It's a clear fact. And they are also usually run in a very bad way. So we actually are using as our favorite creative technique the worst creative technique there is, and we also use it in a wrong way. And we expect a good result. It's crazy. There are lots of other creative techniques that you can use. And, just search creative techniques online. There are so many. In every company, there are lots of people who are introverts. They are the silent half. Make sure introverts are heard. Sometimes they have the best ideas. Don't, if you are not an extrovert person like I am, it doesn't mean you are not creative. You could be even more creative, only you are not as confident to express your ideas. Another thing that, good creative companies do is to rely on lots of collaborators. Don't imagine all the creative ideas will be in the heads of your people. Bring people on board when you have interesting projects. Do I still have a bit of time? Not so much, actually. Huh? Yes, great. So quickly, just taking clients along, it's super important. If we don't have clients with us, then, creativity is for nothing. Clients don't have a lot of time, so make sure you inform and involve them all the time. Present brave work, sell it creatively, and explain why it matters. Clients, they want creative ideas, or only sometimes, they go with less risky ideas because it's safer. We need to explain that actually sometimes taking a bit of risk is the safest way forward. And to wrap this up, I personally believe that the easiest way to build a creative culture is to focus on creative awards. Everything I was doing with my previous company was around creative awards, was the best way to motivate people, to inspire them, to celebrate, to evaluate our work. If it didn't win, we knew we weren't doing a good job. So by focusing on creative awards, you could actually do pretty much everything that I've discussed earlier. Celebrate the awards, not just the winning of the awards, but actually celebrate the festivals. So every time there's, for example, Cannes Lions, create a creativity celebration in your company during Cannes Lions to, get inspired of all that creativity. I want to end with this, another quote, as I said. In creativity, always aim big. Guys, aim as big as you can. Because when you reach for the stars, you may not quite get one, but you won't come up with a handful of mud either. The braver you try to be, the better work you will do. Thank you so much for this. Thank you. It was an honor.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Actually, Gabriela, you want to stay back on stage because Aniruddha Bhagwat of Ideosphere Consulting is going to join. Aniruddha, are you there? All right. I'm going to hand over the mic to you, Aniruddha.
So creativity.
How are you?
Good, and creativity is something that I think everyone here, including us at Ideosphere, I think everyone makes it a focus in our organizations. But one of the things I want to ask you, and because of your history of being on the advertising side, on the public relations side, and also playing global roles there, how do you see the approach to creative has changed when you actually played both sides of the role?
Right. So what I've discovered being on the client side, so I've been on the agency side most of my life, and on the client side only a few months this year, to be entirely honest. What I discovered is that when I was a client, suddenly I had very little time for creativity. I had my mind filled with so many other things, and suddenly, you know, lots of people would ask me, why do you work with an agency? You are creative, you know, like we know you, you are creative. Why don't you come up with creative ideas? And I would be like, I have absolutely no time for that. So I was relying suddenly so much on the support of agencies. And again, to my point earlier, I encourage you guys to, you know, inform your clients, incite your clients, present stuff that's happening out there, keep them informed with everything that is new and relevant regarding to creativity, because that's what, you know, at least in my experience, what clients expect of us. And also, you know, I worked lots of years for advertising agencies, and the difference, the biggest difference that I discovered between how creativity is approached in PR and how creativity is approached in advertising is the thing that for PR professionals, creativity is most of the time a skill or a talent. While in advertising, creativity is treated as a discipline. The entire organization is working towards making brilliant ideas happen. You know, if you ask a financial director from an ad agency, good ad agency, why they are doing their work, they would say probably that they are there to make sure that creativity happens. And they are in the finance department. The whole organization, it's you know, focused on making great creativity happen. And I personally feel that in public relations, we need to stop treating creativity as just a talent. Of course, it is a bit of a talent, but it's also a method. It's also, you know, something that can be taught and can be led. And, you know, we could do a lot more than we are doing right now.
I think that is what you're talking about creating an actual culture of creativity,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
Guys, so I spoke to Gabriela before, and I was really amazed to find out one statistic, that when she was running her own organization, 70% were award-winning clients. And we struggle trying to make a couple of case studies every year, but now that you have already said that you love to share your work, I think everyone would love to hear a couple of examples of how you were able to kind of use creativity, specifically in PR, and then to drive results, like you said.
That's a very good question. Thank you so much. So indeed, when I was leading my own creative boutique PR in Romania, 70% of the work we were doing was awarded, either nationally or internationally, a lot of it internationally. And that was the only way for us to get noticed. And we were doing lots of creative concepts. As you can imagine, when you are doing 70% of your work as an award-winning work, you can't have you know, traditional clients and creative clients. All our clients had to become creative clients, otherwise we would not be able to work. So there were several things that we were doing. First of all, as a company, we were really good at exciting clients about having their own creative campaigns. So we would constantly tease clients with things we would do for other clients, for example. Try to make them to have jealous and to want to have their own campaigns. We were also really good at celebrating together with clients, so they didn't feel like just for us. We were winning awards together as a team, and it was influencing our company and my people's careers, but it was also influencing their own careers. Suddenly, the communication directors were really well known in the industry for being so brave and winning so many awards, and it was really good for us. And in terms of campaigns that we were doing, I'm thinking to give you one particular example because I think it's quite interesting. So at a certain point, we were working for Varta. Varta Europe is a very well-known European company with headquarters in Germany. So they are a German-based company, but they are active in many clients. They are usually making batteries, but also torches. And as you can, and this is a big, big multinational company, a German company. So by any, regular standard, they are not exactly what you would call the most creative clients because, they are in batteries. They are, German company, very big companies, lots of rules, chain of approval, everything that makes, usually the work quite hard. And one day they gave us a brief for a new type of torch, right? So a flashlight. That was made out of very, very tough materials, super tough materials. So we started discussing with the client and so on, and we discovered that actually the materials that the torch made of were so tough. So there was an insight coming from researching the product. An insight is not in the brief. We discovered it by super researching. So we discovered that the materials made this torch almost indestructible. Basically, under certain parameters, the torch was almost indestructible. So we went to the client and asked our very serious client, look, client, is this product actually indestructible? The client said, yeah, like under certain parameters it is. So our campaign for the launch of this very tough torch, instead of praising what you would normally do, the easiest thing what you do, you have a good product, you praise the product to hell, right? Oh my God, it's made out of this material and this material, and you are trying to convince everybody how amazing it is. What we did for the launch of the product was asking everybody to try to destroy it. In my book, this is one of the bravest campaigns that I've done, and I'm still a bit surprised that the client went for the idea, but it went for the idea. Of course, when we presented this brave campaign, we also presented a crisis manual that was done together with a stand-up comedian. So all the answers were really fun and so on. But we literally asked all the journalists, all the bloggers, all the Romanians to try to destroy the torch. And tell me now, because you are all PR professionals here, what is harder to do? Pitching to a journalist to praise your product, or pitching to a journalist to try to destroy your product? Everybody wanted our product for a test. We didn't have to do anything. It was just because of this amazing creative idea. So you can do lots of stuff,
So, that's amazing. And unfortunately, I think we don't have time for questions. But you'll be here tomorrow as well, right?
And just feel free, guys. I'm really easy to talk to, so just ask any question when you see me around. You'll recognize me by the beautiful dress, which I bought specifically for this event here from India, because I wanted to honor you.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
That is awesome. Thank you.